What is going on, guys? Nathan here, aka Brilliance, back again with yet another Team Fortress 2 gameplay commentary. And before I start my actual commentary, I'd like to just let everyone know that if you do enjoy the following video, then feel free to head on over to my channel and subscribe, being I bring very much similar content. So fun stuff over there, and go check it out. And today we are going to be talking a little bit about the Scout. Now, before we get into that, I'd just like to say that this is my second upload to the Yeousch Reloaded channel, and my first upload was actually a complete guide to Team Fortress 2, the absolute basics for anyone who hadn't really heard of the game before and had no idea what the game was about or what was going on. And I'm going to continue that sort of little series, just kind of explaining more in depth each class, you know, the strategies, tips, stuff like that, and pretty much the role of the class primarily. And like I said, right now we are playing some Scout back behind enemy lines here on PL Badwater, doing some spawn camping. I figured I might be able to get a valuable class once or twice, maybe a medic or a heavy would walk out, but that wasn't really the case. I do believe I get an engineer once or twice, which is not bad, I suppose, but anyway. So if you have never heard of Team Fortress 2 before, have never seen it, and have no idea what's going on, then take comfort, because I am here to assist you, good viewer. Anyway, the Scout is the fastest class in the game. Rocket jumping and sticky jumping aside, he's the fastest class in the game. Very mobile class, but relatively low power. He's kind of like the opposite of the Heavy, who, as you might guess, is very slow, but also very powerful with his high rate of fire minigun. Anyway, the Scout's primary role is to deathmatch, and he is usually most effective by dodging in the air. He is the only class that can double jump and turn directions in midair, which helps tremendously in dodging shots, being he only starts off with 125 health, which is the lowest possible in the Team Fortress 2 spectrum. Now, the Scout does also have the ability to cap objectives for 2 people instead of 1. So, for example, I'm pushing the payload cart, which counts as 2 people since I'm a Scout instead of 1, and also if I were to be on an objective by myself, it would say player times 2 below because I cap it at a double rate. So that's really nice. It does make the Scout a little bit more objective oriented, which is, you know, always nice for like team play. Now, some people still might ask, you know, why would you even play as the Scout if you've only got, you know, very low health, 125 HP, and you're only pretty much armed with a shotgun as our primary, you know, compared to like the Heavy's minigun or the Soldier's rocket launcher? Well, honestly, in the spectrum of good versus bad players, good Scouts are one of the most dominant classes on the battlefield. The only counter to a good Scout is pretty much an engineer, being their sentries have aimbot, because good Scouts are so good at dodging that they almost cannot die just because they never ever get hit. If you compare like a good soldier, like let's say like just on a spectrum of 1 to 10, like a 10 soldier, incredibly good, versus a 10 Scout, just absolutely masterful of the class, people will in most cases pick the Scout just because at that level, Scouts are incredibly good and will outclass a soldier any day of the week, especially because he has a hit scan weapon, which basically means that he fires bullets which impact the player's, you know, body, for lack of a better word. It's really hard to explain, but like compared to something like the Soldier's rocket launcher, which takes time to actually travel and then impact on somebody and create splash damage, the Scout is just a better choice. Now, keep in mind that the Scout is a very easy to learn, hard to master type of setup. His playstyle is relatively easy in concept, but actually playing him effectively is really hard to learn and master. You know, I mean, the concept is you pretty much run around and shoot people, but honestly, to survive against the classes that you're shooting at, it takes a lot of skill and practice. Now, in order to succeed and be really good with the Scout, you also have to be really good at aiming, simply because you're only armed with a scattergun, which is basically a glorified shotgun, and if you're not hitting shots with it, then you're not doing any damage, which means that you're not killing people. If you are new at TF2 and you're just kind of getting oriented into the game, I would definitely suggest a much simpler class, or one that will benefit your team more. Simpler would be like a Heavy or a Pyro. The concept is very simple. You know, a Pyro pyro. As much as I hate to admit it, you know, WM1ing, which is basically just running around flaming people, is a valid tactic to get oriented into the game, being it's very simple to do, and heavy is a very simple class because all you really do is just spin up your minigun and shoot people. But in terms of improving your aim, I would definitely suggest the scout, probably more than the sniper actually, just because with the scout, your movement speed is so much faster that your aim is going to improve simply because you're aiming all over the place. You know, with a sniper even, which is very demanding on your aim, you're sitting still a lot of the time, and that's more precise movements, whereas with a scout, you're kinda, you don't need to be that precise. You're just trying to get body shots on people instead of a headshot, which is a much smaller target. Now, if you are feeling comfortable with Team Fortress 2 and are satisfied with how the game works and flows, then feel free to move on to Scout. He's kind of a little bit of a change from other classes just because he moves so fast, but once you do play a lot of Scout, I guarantee that your aim will improve, not just for TF2, but for all games, just because he's so demanding. With that being said, there are a couple of tips that you can utilize as a scout right away as a beginner and not, you know, suffer as much in the typical new to a game horribleness in terms of skill. Now, this first tip might seem very basic, but it is actually very useful. Jump around a lot. Now, like I said, it's a very basic concept, but you would be surprised at how much you don't get hit if you just jump around crazily as a scout. Now, there is a drawback when jumping around a lot as scout, and really this is all that it comes back to, is aiming. The difference between good players and bad players when jumping around and being unpredictable is that good players can still maintain their aim and still hit players consistently when they're, you know, jumping around, jumping over people's heads, you know, being unpredictable, whereas a bad player will not be able to keep up with his own movements. So you really got to be aware that you're not going like so crazy and unpredictable that you can't actually keep up with your own movements. Now, another small tip that I have for you guys, which I personally should make more use of, and this is also assuming that you're using the scattergun, which as a side note, I would recommend that all new players use. Typically, it is the best scout primary, so I just stick with that. But anyway, never fire the last shot in your scattergun. Now, why would you do this? Well, actually not typically, all the time, reloading your scattergun shots from 0 to 1, so pretty much it being empty, takes slightly longer to reload that shot than any other shot in the scattergun. So that is a smaller tip, but it is also a good one to follow. It helps in those situations where you're kind of 1v1ing like another scout, for example, and, you know, he's got a few shots left in a scattergun. You really don't want to fire that last shot because, you know, half a second on the battlefield can mean the difference between dying or staying alive. Now, besides that, there is a much more important tip out there. It's basically a concept where you don't fire all 6 shots of your scattergun at once. Instead of firing your scattergun and hoping that you're aiming when you shoot the scattergun, you instead take time to aim at the person, choose when to shoot, and then fire. Now, this might sound really stupid and extremely basic, but honestly, you know, after a while in Team Fortress 2, you might find yourself doing this, or even starting out, where you just fire all 6 shots and then, you know, hope that you're aiming at the guy when you happen to pull the trigger. Instead, actually take time to line up your shot and choose when to pull the trigger when you feel that you have a decent shot actually lined up. Now, this will come with practice and just playing the game, but you might find yourself doing that, you know, starting out, or even just kind of just playing and not paying attention to your aiming habits, is just firing willy-nilly and not even taking time to line up a shot. Now, as a scout, it all comes down to aim. If you don't have good aim, then you're not going to survive in the game. Now, how do you improve your aim? Well, obviously playing the game is good practice, and that's just fine and dandy. You'll definitely get better with time. But to supercharge your rate of improvement, there are things called MGE servers in TF2, which are 1v1 servers in which players, well, pretty much 1v1 each other. Basically, this supercharges your improvement because good players frequent these servers, you know, like actual competitive, like professional TF2 players frequent these servers, and as a complete beginner, you might be way out of your league. But how it supercharges your improvement is that with a 1v1, especially with scouts, it is a do or die situation. You either get your aim on the guy and pull the trigger and kill him, or he's going to do that to you in the next second. And honestly, I mean, since you're going against so many good players, you are bound to improve just because that's the nature of the beast in anything. If you go against a better player in basketball, for example, you are going to improve just because that's That's how human intellect works. You just improve if you're going against a better player because you might pick up a tip from them, and they force you to be better. But anyway, that is pretty much the scout in roughly 10 minutes, and this is where I will wrap up the video, guys. Thank you all for watching. Please leave a rating on the video. I'm sure it'll help out Yeousch Reloaded, and feel free to go on over to my channel and subscribe if you did enjoy this video, being I bring very much similar content. We are just about to win this bad water round. I didn't even recognize that we were winning it. I think there was like a heavy on the cart or something like that, and I didn't even see him as I was going to bonk the sentry with my secondary here. Anyway, guys, that's the video. Once again, thank you all for watching, and peace out.